Good morning, and welcome to the Africa Weekly Talk. Today's subject on the docket is the bad gambit of Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky on his visit to the United States to sign a deal with US President Donald J. Trump that unfortunately went wayward because of arguments that came about when Vice President J.D. Vance interjected in an issue that Zelensky had been talking about during the press conference at the White House. And out of that, this deal supposedly real earth mineral deal between the United States and Ukraine that will cover some of the costs of the loans that America has given to Ukraine so far ended badly. It was very unfortunate, fellows. But I blame Vladimir Zelensky on this one. I blame him on this one. I don't care how much some people keep saying that, whether he was ambushed or whatever it was. You are the one in need. And you are the one coming to the White House to let the White House know what you need to help you in this war against Russia. Like Donald J. Trump said, he doesn't have the cards. And of course, he doesn't have the cards. Because if he had the cards, he wouldn't have to come to Washington then. And if the Europeans had the cards, he could have gone to Europe. But it is the United States of America who has the cards in this game. But unfortunately, Zelensky couldn't help himself. He couldn't help himself. If he should have checked his pride outside the door before he entered the White House. But he forgot to do that. And he misread the room. And in the end, he made a big mistake. Big. I don't know if this thing can be salvaged. But I hope it is salvaged for the world so there will be a peace agreement between Russia and Ukraine. Because this war has been going on for far too long. Too many people have died. So hopefully he will come to his senses and realize that this is not about coming down here and trying to prove anything to the media and the world media. And I think that is what all this is about. Because he had been battered for quite some time now by Donald J. Trump. I know. Trump called him a dictator and all that stuff. I think, and in a sense, that thing is in him. So basically, you can tell from the body language, he wasn't comfortable sitting down with Trump. By the end of the day, this is not about being comfortable. This is about finding a solution to a problem, which is not an ordinary problem. We're talking about war, fellows. War that has caused millions of people's lives and displaced millions of Ukrainians all over the world. This is what we are talking about. So this is not a chess game where you think that you can go and play games and all that stuff. This is the real deal. We're talking about people's lives. And in the end, he couldn't come to grips with himself. He let his arrogance and pride get in his way over something that J.D. Vance interjected, which he should just have ignored. But he couldn't help himself. So, fellows, before I dive into this subject today, let's go ahead and watch a clip of what happened, and I'll come back and dissect this whole issue. Let's see what we got here. He screwed up big time. Let's go ahead and see. Yeah, right here. Zelensky screwed up big time. He has nobody but himself to blame, whether he likes it or not.
And now I'm talking about friends in Poland. They are you align yourself pretty much with Putin. What's your message for that?
Well, if I didn't align myself with both of them,
you'd never have a deal. You want me to say really terrible things about Putin and then say, "Hi, Vladimir, how are we doing on the deal?" It doesn't work that way. I'm not aligned with Putin. I'm not aligned with anybody. I'm aligned with the United States of America and for the good of the world. I'm aligned with the world, and I want to get this thing over with. You see the hatred he's got for Putin. It's very tough for me to make a deal with that kind of hate. He's got tremendous hatred, and I understand that, but I can tell you the other side isn't exactly in love with, him either. So it's not a question of alignment. I'm aligned with the world. I want to get the thing set. I'm aligned with Europe. I want to see if we can get this thing done. You want me to be tough? I could be tougher than any human being you've ever seen. I'd be so tough, but you're never going to get a deal that way. So that's the way it goes. All right, one more question.
I would respond to this. So look, for 4 years in the United States of America, we had a president who stood up at press conferences and talked tough about Vladimir Putin, and then Putin invaded Ukraine and destroyed a significant chunk of the country. The path to peace and the path to prosperity is maybe engaging in diplomacy. We tried the pathway of Joe Biden of thumping our chest and pretending that the president of the United States' words mattered more than the president of the United States' actions. What makes America a good country is America engaging in diplomacy. That's what President Trump is doing.
Can I ask you?
Sure.
Yeah.
This is where the problem started.
So he occupied our big parts of Ukraine, part of East and Crimea. So he occupied it on 2014. So during a lot of years, so I'm not speaking about just Biden, but those time was Obama, then President Obama, then President Trump, then President Biden, now President Trump, and God bless, now President Trump will stop him. But during 2014, nobody stopped him. He just occupied and took. He killed people. You know what the contact
2015.
2014.
2014 and 2015.
2014.
Yeah. So
I was not here.
yeah, but
That's exactly right.
Yes, but during 2014 till 2022, the situation the same. That people have been dying on the contact line. Nobody stopped him. You know that we had conversations with him, a lot of conversation, my bilateral conversation, and we signed with him. Me, like a new president in 2019, I signed with him the deal. I signed with him, Macron and Merkel. We signed ceasefire. All of them told me that he will never go. We signed with him with gas contract. Yes, but after that, he broke this ceasefire. He killed our people, and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring it into this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to. I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems with bringing people into your military? And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems, even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future.
Yes,
You
and
will
it's
not
You got it. Don't tell us what we're
That's why
going to
Trump
feel.
jumped in.
We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's exactly
Remember
what
this.
you're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to
That's why
feel.
Trump jumped in.
We're going to feel
Serious in that.
very strong.
Feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and it happens to be right about
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having
I'm playing
cards.
cards.
Right now, you don't
We're
have to play
serious,
cards.
Mr. President.
You're
I'm
playing
very
cards.
serious.
You're gambling
I'm the
with the
president
lives of
anymore.
millions of people.
You think
You're gambling with World War III.
What you're
You're
thinking about?
gambling with
What you're
World
thinking
War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country.
I'm
That's
with
back
all
to you.
respect to you.
Far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank you once this
A lot
entire
of
meeting?
times.
No, in this
Even
entire
today.
meeting, have you said thank you?
Even today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October, offered some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war, you
He's
can.
not speaking loudly. He's not
Yeah.
speaking loudly. Your country's
Can I-
in big
can I-
trouble.
Can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No, you're not
Zelensky
talking.
he
Your
kept
country is
making
in big
argument that
trouble.
doesn't make sense.
You're not winning.
So let's
You're
just
not
let it
winning
go.
this. You have a damn good chance of
we are
coming out
staying-
okay because of
Mr.
us.
President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
You haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet.
You haven't been
not
alone.
in this
We
cabinet.
gave you,
I
through
said
this
thank
stupid president, $350 billion.
You
We
voted
gave
for
you
your president.
military equipment,
You
and your
voted
men
for
are
your
brave, but they had to use our military
What about
equipment.
this?
If you didn't have
You
our
invited
military
me.
equipment,
You invited
if you
me.
didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3
Okay?
days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days,
Come
this is
here
how
and
they
argue.
last. In 2 weeks, of course he has.
It's gonna be a very hard thing to do business like that, I tell you.
Just
Trump
say
is right.
thank you.
I said it a lot of times.
Except
to American people.
Except that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong. We know that you're wrong.
But you see, I think it's good for the American people to see what's going on.
I understand, sir.
I think it's
I
very
understand.
important. That's why I kept this going so long. You have to be thankful. You don't have the cards.
Thankful.
You're buried there. Your people are dying.
Tell you
You're
the-
running
I
low
know.
on soldiers. Listen,
Don't play.
you're running
Mr.
low on
President.
soldiers.
Argue.
It would be a damn good.
Mr.
And then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go and I want this.
That is
Look,
true.
if you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course, we want to stop the war,
But I think you don't want a
but I
ceasefire.
said to you,
I want a
we
ceasefire
guarantee.
because you get a ceasefire faster than
Right there.
anybody.
I told our people about ceasefire, what
These
they
are
think.
things he talked behind closed doors.
That wasn't with me. That was with a guy named Biden who was not a
Zelensky
smart
from
person. That was with Obama. Excuse me. That was with Obama who gave you sheets and I gave you javelins.
Yeah.
I gave you the javelins to take out all those tanks. Obama gave you sheets. In fact, the statement is Obama gave sheets and Trump gave javelins. You got to be more thankful because let me tell you, you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards. But without us, you don't have any cards.
One question, Mr. Vice President. I'm sorry.
It's going to be a tough deal to make because the attitudes have to change.
What if Russia breaks its fire? What if Russia breaks its
Watch what eating before bed does to your skin. What you eat for dinner might have a greater impact on your skin.
All right, fellas. So now you heard Ukrainian President Zelensky going back and forth with President Donald J. Trump, which to me was uncalled for. This is not something Zelensky should have ever even gotten into in the first place. That was a big, big mistake on his part. It was not necessary. You need help, and you know what you need. All you have to do is come in and just listen, and whatever your disagreements that you have, you go back behind closed doors and talk about it. But you see, Zelensky's problem is that Trump has been beating him down for some time now. I mean, calling him a dictator and so on and so on. If Ukraine started the war and all that stuff, Trump knows Ukraine didn't start no war. But what Trump was trying to say was that Ukraine, with its insistence to the EU and NATO, wanting to be part of the NATO alliance, is what triggered this. And we'll talk about this later. But I mean, this goes back to all the arguments that have been made with regards to the Warsaw Pact, the what do you call it, the Budapest Memorandum, and so on and so forth. But the mistake Zelensky made is that he misread the room. He misread the room. I think Zelensky had forgotten that he was not dealing with Biden, because apparently, per some news reports, there was some friction between even him and Joe Biden, because he had become at some point thinking that he's entitled for everything that he needs in terms of money and equipment for him to continue this war with Russia. And out of that, some of Biden's advisors were even angry with the way he was coming across in private meetings. But unfortunately for Zelensky, you are not dealing with Joe Biden anymore. You are dealing with a new sheriff in town, and this is Donald J. Trump, fellas. This is Donald J. Trump. I mean, Donald J. Trump is not going to let you come to the White House. I mean, the United States of America's White House. The seat of, the government, the main house, to come down there and try to disrespect anybody. That's why they let him out. I mean, I don't know if you guys heard about it. Yeah, he was kicked out. They were supposed to have dinner, have a press conference, have dinner, and so on and so forth. No, he was let out through the back door. That's how they did him. They let him out through the back door. Look, I remember some years back when Obama was in office, when Benjamin Netanyahu, Israeli president, he was then the prime minister of Israel at that time, when Obama was in office. Netanyahu came to the White House and at a press conference or something like that, and where Obama said something in regards to the peace negotiations between Israel and Palestine, which Netanyahu didn't like. So he went ahead and started schooling Obama on the history of Israel and Palestine and all that stuff, which Obama already knew about it. But the mistake Obama made, which really, really got me at that time myself, I was really angry with Obama, pissed with Obama on that issue that day, because I felt Obama should have put Netanyahu in his place, because he's the president of the United States of America. Israel needs America. America don't need Israel. And he should have put Netanyahu in place. Obama, with the same slogan, no drama Obama and all that stuff, stood there quietly and let Netanyahu rant, schooling him on the history of Israel and Palestine. And the conservatives at that time made a big deal out of it, because he was being schooled by Netanyahu. He ain't going to come down here and do that with Donald J. Trump. And it ain't happening, fellas. Donald J. Trump will never allow that to happen, because Trump himself is a character. So he's not going to let you come to his house and disrespect him. That's why I told him to shut the hell up. He's had enough talk, and I think it turned for him to speak. And that is how this thing ended. Unfortunately, a signing ceremony, supposedly, which was supposed to guarantee some rare earth minerals from Ukraine to the United States to cover the cost of some of the billions and billions and billions of dollars, of US taxpayers' dollars, money that have been given to Ukraine, ended up in a fiasco like this. Very, very unfortunate. He misread the room. That was a mistake he made. That was the biggest mistake he made. And now, I don't know if this thing can be salvaged. But I think he thought he was dealing with Biden. That was the mistake he made. He should never get into any argument. I mean, look, when J.D. Vance interjected, all Zelensky should have said was, okay, we can talk about this when we go behind closed doors. He shouldn't have engaged J.D. Vance talking about what kind of diplomacy, because if you heard Trump, when Trump jumped in, Trump said that he is not ready for ceasefire because he kept talking about he wanted security. You see, the whole thing about this whole thing is that Zelensky came in here after being battered by Trump last week, couple of weeks ago, calling him a dictator and all that stuff, and the media press, the liberal press and European press, all talking about, oh, the Trump administration even not inviting Ukraine to join them in negotiations in Saudi Arabia and all that stuff. He thinks that he's been emboldened by the liberal media in America, as well as the liberal media in Europe. So he's going to come here and sound tough. But that was the dumbest thing and stupid mistake he made. It was not necessary. Because at the end of the day, like Trump told him, you don't hold the cards. You don't have the cards. You are not holding the cards of this game. The United States is holding these cards to the game. Europe don't hold the cards to this war going on. The only country that can stop this war is the United States of America. Period. No ifs and buts about it. And this dude came here with that mindset to come and please the world media and the liberal media by trying to show tough to prove that, oh, I'm going to come here and then stand up and say this and say that. Hold on, fellas. We are talking about life and death. That is what we are talking about. We're not talking about playing a chess game. This involves lives. I mean, talk about hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people on both sides, Ukrainians and Russians, who have died because of this senseless war. Like Trump keeps saying. And I strongly believe that, because to me, this is a very senseless war. This war should never have happened in the first place. I mean, I can go back to the history of the how this thing started, going back to when the disintegration of Soviet Union, 1991. This goes all the way back when the United States and the European allies decided and pretty much gave an assurance to Russia that they were not going to extend NATO alliances 1 inch. This was said by James Baker, who was then the Secretary of State for George Herbert Bush, that the United States and its allies will never extend 1 inch of expansion into Eastern Europe, which was then Germany, East Germany. After Germany, after when Russia signed off for East Germany to unite with West Germany. This was an agreement, even though it wasn't written, it wasn't like a treaty that was signed or anything like that. But everybody, diplomats on both ends, came to understand that when James Baker himself, at that time, who was the president, the chancellor of Germany? I think it was Kohl. Kohl was then the chancellor. Everybody came to agree that with the fall of the Soviet Union, the West was not going to extend 1 inch into Eastern Europe. And then came Poland, Czechoslovakia, and Bulgaria, Romania, all being admitted from 2000, 2004, all the way into the European Union and into the NATO alliance. And with that also created a lot of problem between Russia and the West on that issue. And when Putin came in, he said, hold on. This was the agreement that was made. Even though it was not a written agreement, but we cannot allow you guys to keep admitting these countries that border Russia. That is more like a threat to Russia. So you can go back and talk about the history of all of this. And this is why when Ukraine kept insisting of joining NATO, eventually, this is what happened with Russia using the Donetsk area, Eastern Ukraine, as an excuse to invade Ukraine. So this is a history that goes back to Russia and Ukraine, which have been like brothers and brothers for thousands and thousands of years. I think it used to be called Kiev Rus. That was a long time ago. So going back to the history of Russia and Ukraine, there is no way Russia is going to allow Ukraine to join NATO. After looking at what had happened to Poland, Bulgaria, Romania, all those eastern countries that used to be part of the USSR, now integrated into the NATO alliance as well as the EU, Ukraine was the last one that Russia was going to allow. They will go to war, and they have, and that's why they are at war. And majority of Russians agree with Putin on this one. The Western media wouldn't tell you, but majority of Russians in their pool agree with Putin on this one. Because remember, back in the 2000s, Putin requested to even join the NATO, and he was rebuffed by the West. Why did they rebuff Putin? Nobody knows why. Because Putin asked to join NATO, and they rebuffed him. So Russians have always seen NATO and the West as a threat. And eventually, with this expansion that has been going on for some time now, and with Ukraine, and with the last NATO alliance meeting that they did some years back in 2014 or so, when the NATO alliance and European Union members more or less had a memorandum of understanding or whatever, that they were in terms of starting the negotiations of bringing Ukraine into it. That is what started this whole thing. So when Trump is talking about Ukraine started a war, I don't think Trump is talking about Ukraine was the one that was the aggressor that invaded Russia. Nah. He's going back to the history of how this thing started. That's what I think Trump is talking about, because everybody knows Russia invaded Ukraine. But in that instance, Trump is referring to what pretty much made Russia to invade Ukraine. That is what I think he meant by that. By the end of the day, even with all that I've said about this situation right now, now you have a situation where almost 1 million people have died on both sides. And from all accounts, Ukraine is not even winning this war right now. And you have Trump, who campaigned on coming in as the president of the United States to end this war, to save lives, as well as to make sure that America doesn't keep spending all these billions and billions and billions of dollars. And I know, fellas, most of you guys don't even know this, because I hear people talking about, especially European media, talking about, Trump is trying to take the mineral resources of Ukraine, and he was trying to bully him, and Zelensky wouldn't bug and all that stuff, and that is good for Ukraine. So fellas, you see, the truth of the matter is this. A lot of these things people don't even know. It doesn't even come out in the press. This rare earth, Ukrainian rare earth mineral resources deal was started and initiated by Zelensky himself to Biden last year. Last year, around middle last year, I mean June, July, August, or something like that, when the United States government kept giving them this money, that was when that Zelensky himself suggested that deal with Biden. So it wasn't even Trump who came up with this deal. It was initiated by Zelensky to Biden. And then when Trump became president, then Trump jumped on it. And knowing Trump, he's going to make sure that, he gets a better deal. So for people who don't understand what happened and what transpired before this issue, blaming it and saying that, Trump is trying to bully them to take their rare earth minerals and so, no. It was Zelensky himself. And first of all, people also have to understand that the European Union, every penny that the European Union have been giving Ukraine, they are making sure they're going to get their money back from Ukraine. So America has to, one way or the other, also get some of its money back. So I don't fault Donald Trump for this. This was a good agreement for both parties. And this agreement was initiated by Zelensky himself. By looking at the body language of Zelensky and J.D. Vance and the whole tension that was in the room itself, you can tell that even prior to this meeting, there had been some disagreement behind closed doors. Because looking at even when Zelensky was asked about security guarantee, And he came out flatly. I mean, responded, forcefully that there would never be a ceasefire without security guarantee. Remember, Trump came back later and said that he wasn't ready for a ceasefire because he kept talking about security guarantee. That tells you that there had been some blood going on even behind closed doors on this issue. And that was even a mistake on the part of Zelensky right there, because there was no need for him even to raise that issue when President Trump is trying to talk about this deal, which is even totally separate, different. This deal has not even nothing to do with a ceasefire. This deal is just basically about securing this real deal with the United States, so the United States money that have been invested in Ukraine can also be paid back with this real deal. This is totally different from the peace deal, ceasefire deal that the Trump administration is negotiating. So even for him to be talking about security guarantee, in front of the world, they didn't even make sense. These things could have been hashed out behind closed doors, and definitely the United States government was going to hash out this deal with Ukraine. But it was Zelensky's arrogance, and for him to misread the room, because he was playing to the liberal media and the world media. That is what Zelensky was playing to, trying to look like trying to look and sound tough. To me, that was the dumbest thing for him to do. It didn't make sense, because at the end of the day, your hands are in the mouth of the United States of America. Like Trump told him, you don't hold the cards. The cards of this war going on is held by the United States of America. And it is only the United States of America that can bring peace and ceasefire to this deal. The Europeans know about it. The Europeans can talk all they want. At the end of the day, they themselves, who do they rely on? They rely on the United States for their own defense. Yes, they can talk about ramping up their contributions to NATO or defense spending, all of that. But at the end of the day, even if they ramp up all their defense spending, everything, they still look up to the United States of America for their defense. It's that simple. And they know that, and that's a fact. So it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that something that's supposed to have been a very simple deal, signing ceremony, that would have given Ukraine and ended up the most important thing to stop this war and senseless killing and dying of both Russians and Ukrainians. But because of pride on the part of Zelensky, trying to, appease this liberal media and world media, for whatever reason, I don't know, he ended up in a fiasco, which is very, very unfortunate. That's the biggest mistake he has ever made. Look at the body language of the Ukrainian ambassador to the United States. She had what? Her head in her face in her down. She was like, oh, no, don't do this. You can tell on the body language of the Ukrainian ambassador. She said, why are you doing this? It was not necessary. Knowing Donald Trump, Donald Trump, everybody knows who Donald Trump is. Come on, man. All you could have done was just bit his tongue and don't worry about it. But like I said, I think he's a man of pride and he wants to prove that he's a tough dude. But you know what, fellas, like I've always said, if somebody feeds you, you are the mercy of that person who provides money, food, whatever for you. Sometimes you have to check your pride outside the door before you walked in. And that's what he should have done. But he wanted to show to look tough. And now look at it. Because at the end of the day now, how much support can the European Union give him? Because without the United States of America, I'm sorry. You have staunch congressmen and senators. Talk about Lindsey Graham. This is a warmonger. I'll call him a warmonger, and he is. He's a hawk. He doesn't see any war that he doesn't like. He will fight tooth and nail to make sure that Ukraine gets all the weapons to fight Russia to the end. Now he's turned against Zelensky because of what happened. If you have Lindsey Graham, senator from South Carolina turning against you on this issue, I'm sorry. He's in a very serious dude. I mean, this is unfortunate, but people have to understand that, look, Donald Trump will always be Donald Trump. And what J.D. Vance did was basically something that you can tell had been boiling. It's like a vent-up explosion. Because you can tell that this is something that has been boiling between the Ukrainians and the Americans for some time now. And in the end, they felt they've had enough of it. If you want to talk, let's go behind closed doors and talk about it. But don't come and sit in front of the world media and the liberal media trying to make yourself feel good and look tough, whilst you jeopardize an opportunity to help stop this war, senseless killing of your own citizens. I mean, sometimes it looks like Trump might even be right. I don't think the dude wants a ceasefire. Because he's being pushed by these Europeans. At the end of the day, who are the people dying? They are not Europeans dying. They are your citizens who are dying, being killed. That is what he has to look at, and he's not even looking at it that way. Like he is talking about, he wants more ammunition and more weapons, all of that stuff. To what? To continue fighting? For people to still keep dying? Look, this Ukrainian-Russia issue is just like Israel and Palestine issue going on. This situation can never be resolved through wars. But this war can be fought for hundreds of years if there is no amicable resolution to it, real ceasefire to it. This war will never end. Because there's no way Russia will allow Ukraine to join NATO. And to some extent, I blame Joe Biden, because they enabled Zelensky to believe that they are going to be there all the time without even trying to find a solution to the problem. Because when this war started, this war could have been ended if the United States and the European Union had talked about a resolution with Putin. But they felt that they have to make sure that they teach Russia a lesson. So they're going to spend all these billions and billions and billions of dollars. And in the end, 3 years, how many lives of innocent youth of both Russians and Ukrainians are dead now? And now you have the peacemaker, Donald J.TRUMP. I mean, that's kind of surprising now. Donald J.TRUMP, the peacemaker, who has been arguing that this is a bad war, this is a stupid war, this war should never have started in the first place. And unfortunately and surprisingly, the liberal media in America and the liberal media in Western Europe, their disdain and hate towards Donald J. Trump, to the extent that even when this man is trying to be a peacemaker, they don't even support Donald Trump on this, because they just hate Donald J. Trump, even when he is the one who is trying to bring peace. I mean, can you believe this? I mean, Donald Trump trying to bring peace, and you talk about liberals, people who were anti-war. All of a sudden, now they are the hawks now. Now they are the hawks. They are the ones who believe that let's arm Ukraine and continue to fight. I mean, these are the same people who were anti-war, who were staunchly against George Bush in Iraq, to some extent even Afghanistan. Same people. Now, all of a sudden, because of their disdain and hatred towards Donald J. Trump, they are now warmongers. They are more like a hawk in America now. Now they are the ones pushing for Ukraine to get all the arms they need to continue to fight, whilst Ukraine's citizens are being slaughtered, dying senselessly on the battlefield. All right, fellas, it is unfortunate, but if it's Sunday, it's the Africa Weekly Talk. God bless you guys. Have a great week, and peace and love. Thank you.